All right, number 3, graphing the function. So similar to where we kind of had to graph the functions for 1 and 2, we'll have to graph the functions for 3. Perhaps a little tougher because we have 2 equations that we have to graph. Something I noticed though is that our inputs, that it looks like I can have any domain. Like my domain is all real numbers, but the key difference of whether I use one equation or the other is whether it is 0 or it's less than 0 or greater than 0. I should say is 0 or less or greater. So yeah, so this one has a strictly greater than 0 and this one can be 0 or less than 0. So anything positive, I will use this top equation. So let me kind of draw this. It's going to refocus or not. Okay, so let's consider what it would be if it was actually 0. Even though this one here, 0 would not be included, if I did plug in 0, it would just be -5. Okay, so I would have an open circle here. Now let's just find one extra point. An easy one would be 3. Because the 3's here will cancel out and I get 2 minus 5 or -3. That's about right here. So I can graph this like that. Now let's do the other one. We'll do the other one in green. Now this one will be a closed circle when I plug in 0. And it's just going to be -3. Let's figure out one extra point. This time I'm going to pick h of -2 because it cancels out that first fraction very nicely. Also the negative cancels each other out, so it's just +1 minus 3 is equal to -2. Alright, so let me graph that. That's my graph. Let's check out, maybe we won't do all of 8 of these, but I'll try to do one of each kind. And we want them in slope-intercept form, so let's recall that that is y is equal to mx plus b. Some of you guys have maybe learned that some of these problems you can do different ways. Perhaps you like to use point-slope formula, and you use that to get you to the slope-intercept form. And I might start doing one way and kind of change midway if I notice that it might be a little bit easier to do it the other way. Alright, so let's do blue. I need a line of a slope that passes through -3, 1 with that slope of 2/5. So at this point, I don't know what my b is, so I need to figure that out. So I'm going to plug that into that mx plus b form, but instead of having the y and the x as just those variables, I'm going to plug in the 1 for y, 2/5 for m, and a -3 for the x, and I will solve for b. So let's zoom in a bit. Sorry, something on my screen. And let's see, I get 1 is equal to -6/5 plus b. If I add 6/5 to both sides, let's see, that would be, not 6/6, that would have to be 5/5. I would be getting 11/5 is equal to b. Now that I know my b, I already knew my m. I'm going to plug that in and get y is equal to 2/5 x plus 11/5. Alright. Check out number 5. This time they gave me 2 points. So it's almost like this number 4, except I don't know my slope. I'm going to have to figure out my slope and then use one of the points to get my b. Or either way. So we have a few different ways to do this. You could use point slope, or you could use slope-intercept form. In a little bit. Maybe not right out of the way, you can use slope-intercept form, but let me use this to find my slope. The y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's make this my x1, y1, and this my x2, y2. So I'll do 5 minus 5 over negative 1 minus 3. So this is 0 over negative 4. So my slope is 0. So that tells me that I have a line that's going to just go straight horizontally. And this is a clue that it's going to go through 5. So even if I did plug this in where this y is equal to mx plus b, if I plugged in these 2 points, let's say I picked the 3 comma 5, this would be 5 is equal to 0 times 3 plus b, and then b would be equal to 5. So actually my equation will be y is equal to 5. Number 7, a line parallel to the line 2x minus y, and it passes through negative 5 comma negative 3. Remember, parallel means same slope. So I want to rewrite this equation so I can figure out the slope a little easier. Okay, let me add y to both sides. And then let me subtract 7 from both sides. And then I'm going to flip the order of this, so I have the y on the left. My slope is equal to 2. Now that I know my slope, I can use this point, kind of like how we did 4 and how we did 5. I'm going to plug in negative 3 for the y, 2 for the slope, negative 5 for the x, and then I want to solve for b. So I have negative 3 is equal to negative 10. Add 10 to both sides to get b is equal to 7. Now I can write this equation. I figured out that my slope was 2 and my b is 7. So 2x plus 7. Perpendicular means my slopes will be the opposite reciprocal. Now they already tell me the slope of this line. I can figure out my opposite reciprocal by taking the opposite sign, which would be positive. I'll put a plus, but you normally wouldn't write the plus. And then taking the reciprocal of the fraction, which means I flip it. So that's my slope. And I'm going to do these problems similar. Plug in negative 4 for the y, 2/3 for the m, negative 3 for the x. Solve for b. This is negative 4 is equal to negative 2 after those 3's cancel each other out. And our b is equal to negative 2. So y is equal to 2/3 x minus 2. Number 8, perpendicular to this line, 2x minus 5 is equal to negative 11. This is like a combination of 6 and 7, where in 6 I had to solve for my y to get that equation, and 7 would be in perpendicular, so let's do that. 2x minus 5 is equal to negative 11. Oh. Now this is actually slightly different because I don't have a y. So let's actually solve for x. 2x is equal to negative 6. X is equal to negative 3. So when we had this equation here, y is equal to 5, that meant if I had a graph at 5, it would be a straight horizontal line, like that. Now if we get x is equal to negative 3, that means that we have a straight vertical line at negative 3. Okay, so perpendicular would mean that crosses at a 90-degree angle. So, well, maybe I shouldn't pick green again, or orange. Anywhere here would be perpendicular as long as it's a flat horizontal line. Now I need to make it go through 7 comma 5. So let me see here. if I had my line, let's see here, 7 comma 5 would be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Here it has to go through 5, so that equation would be y is equal to 5. Find the slope. Find the line if the slope is 1/2 and the x-intercept is 3. Now, it helps to write this as a new point, and an x-intercept would be written like this. So I have a point, I have a slope, I can figure out the line, plug in 0 for the y, 1/2 for the slope, 3 for the x, figure out what b is. 0 is equal to 3/2 plus b, and b is equal to negative 3/2. Y is equal to 1/2 x minus 3/2. Number 10 is just like number 9, only they tell you the point. So I'll show you how you start it off. You're going to say negative 7 is equal to negative 3 times 4 plus b. Solve for what b is, and then you already know the slope is negative 3x, and then you put the plus b part in. Let me move this down a little bit. Okay, whether it's plus or minus. Number 11 is just like number 6. We need to get y by itself and then plug in the point. Remember, parallel, it will be the same slope. I guess no. Let's check out 12, 13, 14, 15 next.